Your latest news update from Western Mass News.
Good Wednesday afternoon, everyone. I'm Chris Pisano with a look at your headlines. Concerns in Springfield over the actions by the new Board of Police Commissioners. Members of the city's council's Public Safety Committee want the board to follow specific rules, but remain frustrated after board members didn't show up to a virtual meeting yesterday. Councillor Victor Davila tells Western Mass News they want answers to the board's process and why meeting policies haven't been created yet. Flags flying at half-staff across Connecticut, marking the 10th anniversary of the Sandy Hook school shootings. A gunman killed 20 children, all first graders, and 6 educators. The gunman had killed his own mother before going to the school and later killed himself. Since then, survivors are calling on the Supreme Court to help enact changes aimed at preventing similar violence in the future. And the U.S. is considering plans to send Patriot air defense missiles to Ukraine. This move meant to help Ukraine protect itself against Russia's air attacks. Local experts tell us this has the tendency to escalate the war between Russia, the U.S., and NATO, and could escalate to a nuclear confrontation. The plan will still have to be approved. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has to approve it and has the final signing by the President, Joe Biden.
I'm meteorologist Jana Brown. The check of your forecast. Tonight, we are blustery early on, but once we get past midnight, winds should become much lighter, allowing temperatures to drop back down to the upper teens. Another cold night ahead with mostly clear skies. We'll start to see some high, thin clouds get closer to us by morning. And as we continue throughout our Thursday, it is looking fairly cloudy, but quiet and dry. High temperatures close to 40 degrees. May have a little bit of a breeze at times coming in out of the east, especially in the afternoon. Now, we do have wet weather approaching with our next storm system. It looks like a full-on snowstorm for the Berkshires and the hill towns that are under winter storm watches and warnings. We may see a few advisories get issued for the valley, but honestly, a lot of the valley is going to be dealing with rain as we go throughout the day Friday. On the back side of the system, we may see a transition over to snow Friday night into early Saturday with some minor accumulation. Temperatures Friday in the valley will hit middle to upper 30s, but actually most will stay above freezing. So even the high terrain looks like a heavy wet snow with several inches expected. And then for the valley, wet during the day with a little bit of light snow on Saturday morning, followed by dry weather for the rest of the weekend.
Stay with Western Mass News on air, online, and on our app throughout the day for breaking news, weather, and exclusive content.